transcendent knowledge. Thus have I heard. Once the Blessed One was dwelling in Ratchakriya at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita?" Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, "O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye dhatu, no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangati bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice." When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Shandara Samaraya Ve Te Ata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangati Bodhisoha Baba Gonja Zonji Gae Dembe Doji She Oba Doji Meba Doji Shewa Doji Dragi Baji Medembe Jutanji She Dengoye Zoha Ngeri Donya Je Jo Je Wada Medo Nupe Jendan Je Wadan Domba Junjin Bon Zon Zon Joji Dashi De Jan and Dare Yo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready. Shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Edam Guru Ratna Mandala Gam Niratayami. Jadam Jani Janam La Janju Badu Dani Yasuchi Dagi Chunye Jipe Sonam Jindrola Benchi Sanje Rubaru. Jadam Jani Janam La Janju Badu Dani Yasuchi Dagi Chunye Jipe Sonam Jindrola Benchi Sanje Rubaru. Jadam Jani Janam La Janju Badu Dani Yasuchi Dagi Chunye Jipe Sonam Jindrola Benchi Sanje Rubaru.
Otanga suye deji mawa duro deji marwa. Tanga suye deji mawa de talari jinlari saji jinlari zawashini tembisu tene lochida janrebani maji zawashini tembisu. Tene lochida janrebadla tayu tene la jibana bisku nibache talembisu. Nije tadne nibache talembisu dala chebu chongodan Tomo Laji Revolution Sudan, Dinga, Tomo Laji Revolution, Chibi Laji Revolution, Sonje, what the song to ma, Dudu Genuine de Berta, the Dudu Genuine de Marba, that know what the Tangasu Yete, Guji, Suji de Valaji Sawaro, Lebaton and Bebatamai, Kubachi Tabashin, so today. Large Tawashini Tembisu, what the ten is a mother, she didn't answer that. She didn't answer that, she didn't answer and tag again that waters, Marba, again that waters, what the Tembisu led the Marba. That Nabichu the Shebala, Nabichu chicken, Gangel ten water, issue Shebala, issue chicken, Gangel ten water, Chulus Hamata Marba. Inchi Shebalaya, Inchi Gangan, Sari Shebalaya, Sari Gangel ten woodwa. Tenaji that day, Naso Landrogi, Jebu Chungunti, Shemi Lanson the Shebala, the shaking Gangan ten wood, Tayin Susan, good Lord, she intends to what the lady but it.
So this evening we will be going over Lama Tsong-kha-pa's source of all my good. And if we look at the outline in Lama Tsong-kha-pa's Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, and we look at the categories of it, and we find how it's placed into this short poem. When we look at the outline of the Great Treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, we find that it begins with how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path. And then the next category is the stages of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher. Under that category, we find two categories: an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. So in that section of how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we have the category of the actual way to take full advantage of that life of leisure and opportunity, the actual way. And under that category, we have the major headings of training the mind in the stages of the path shared in common with beings of small capacity, training the mind in the stage of the path shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. We begin with this first category of how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path. So in the Source of All My Good, it states, "The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him or her in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him or her with all my strength and reverence." Here, this first section deals with the necessity of a teacher. So we must rely upon a teacher in order to learn any area of knowledge. If we wish to learn any religion, whether it's Buddhism or Christianity, it's necessary to have a teacher in order to learn those subjects. If we wish to learn non-religious subjects such as science, or English, it's necessary to have a science or English teacher in order to learn those subjects. So we must rely upon a teacher in order to learn any area of knowledge. So in this case, if we're condensing what the subject matter of this poem is in the Great Treatise, we're needing a teacher who can teach us the three capacities. So when we look at a teacher's lamp for the path to enlightenment, we find that statement that says, "Understand that persons of three capacities, small, medium, and great." Those capacities, those small, medium, and great capacities, are what, in this case, we need a teacher in order to understand. So this next section, we deal with the life of leisure and opportunity, and then we find the various subjects of that. First, the identification of that leisure and opportunity, and then the difficulty of achieving leisure and opportunity, and the great importance or the value of achieving leisure and opportunity. So then we find it in this next section. "Bless me first to realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day."
chudu competent la taitens la de mare tangazo me de ane so chudu gi na chudu wala competent de res marbe taiten ane chudu wala an chudu ge ta te tuje sai ten de diores ane de tulunga so chudu gi na ne ba chabu ngures o te shende samarbe.
Then the Judan Chen, the Tamagari Sumpare, the
Tagasukar sugar, that chudu begaje, and the Nyawana Jawala Soba in a chudu do marwa.
Okay, yeah.
What the Sultan Tawara, Mahumba Jita Tawa.
Lesso.
Tawa Hiza,
Lesso.
And what the Gajenta Tawa. Gajenta Tena, chudu between Masana, and chudu to Mara, Tuje, Ranjunga the Jen.
Ale Ranjunga the Jen. Lesso.
Tuje, what is a marbe?
Tuche. Yeah. So when we first identify these, what leisure and opportunity is referring to, and sometimes it's freedom and endowment. I think sometimes freedom is a better translation of this word, because you are free from certain things, and that's, I think, why it's a better translation as a note. So here, when we're speaking of freedom or leisure, it means that one has a basis from which one is free to, or has the leisure to, practice religion. So one is free from the 8 hindrances, or the 8 leisureless states, or the 8 states that lack freedom. And if one has a basis, so for instance, when we speak of a leisureless state, or a state that lacks freedom, a hell realm being is in a basis that lacks freedom, because this isn't a basis from which to practice religion or practice Dharma. This basis that we have is a basis from which to practice Dharma. Therefore, we call it a basis of freedom, or a basis of leisure, because it is free from these 8 negativities. And then if we have this basis, then it's also necessary to have the causes and conditions that allow for us to practice religion. And then those are the endowments, or the opportunities. And we find that there are 5 opportunities that pertain to ourselves, and 5 opportunities that pertain to others, or outside. It could probably translate it best as within ourselves, and then 5 that are outside. So this is what is meant by leisure and opportunity. It means that one is free from the 8 leisureless states, and one has the 10 opportunities. Dixon.
하다 마시네 드루당가 루시네 내송 지게한테 사진 비디오 나제레스 뭐저던 내송 지레스 드루당가 루시네 네 드루 지게한테 하다 할 지게한테 사진 비디오 뉴레스 어떤 손도 말해 다들 아야데베는 가르치는 뭐 드루당가 루시네 네 사진 비디오 나제 내송 가르치 거레스 주세 태원도 내 페미치 만한 다바마이 슈론지 테나 소주는 배진가 보는도 맞다불라 소나 근데 맞대 매단 대바먹어 주사게데 시작 몸브레스 몸이 소소 내송 지게데 사심이 된다 버레스 거와사게 뉴뉴 거와주사게 뉴뉴 예상 드늘 지게데 샤센세미 된다 버레스 어떤 손도 말봐
the door. Okay. So when we get to this this body of the text, it says that it's ever so hard to find. So why is it hard to find? So we can prove that it's hard to find by way of reason, and then some examples. So one specific reason, or example rather, of its difficulty that's given, we find in the basis of discipline in the Vinaya, where the Buddha has stated that the number of beings that are born from the lower realms and the higher realms into the lower realms resemble the atoms in the world, and the number of beings that are born from the lower realms or the higher realms into the higher realms resemble the number of atoms that fit on a fingertip. So we see that there are many more beings in the lower realms of cyclic existence. When we find this comparison of the number of beings going to the lower realms are like the atoms on the earth, and the number of beings going to the higher realms are like the atoms on a fingernail. So what is the reason for this? So we go to Aryadeva's 400 verses, where we find a quote that states that humans, for the most part, are involved in the ignoble. Therefore, most ordinary beings fall to the lower realms of cyclic existence. So what does this mean? Humans, for the most part, are involved in the ignoble. It means that we are more engaged in accumulating non-virtue. We are engaged in the 10 non-virtuous deeds, and these deeds, negative deeds, lead to the lower realms of cyclic existence. The amount we engage in virtue, very little, and virtue is what leads to the higher realms of cyclic existence. Therefore, because we engage in so much more non-virtue, we are more likely to fall to the lower realms of cyclic existence. So this is what is meant by Aryadeva's point, that humans for the most part are involved in the ignoble. So humans for the most part are involved in non-virtuous activities, therefore most beings go to the lower realms, hell, hungry ghost, and animal. So it's because that the non-virtue is so prevalent. So this reason supports the example given in the Vinaya. So the next part says it is ever so valuable. So it sometimes could be translated as has great importance. Dun chewa, great importance. So why does it have great importance? This human basis allows us to, if we wish, achieve rebirth into the higher realms of cyclic existence. If we wish, we can achieve the state of liberation or nirvana. We can achieve complete Buddhahood. So it's from this basis that we can achieve all these goals, and that's why we say that this basis has great meaning, or is very meaningful, very valuable.
다 대바 먹어 주용 그냥 손 치고 해서 대바 먹어 줄 샤다제 내부터 상고네 샤다제 대바도 매바 속에 있나요? 안내 때들 저 내가 요아서 말이야.
So although the 10 non-virtuous deeds that we engage in will lead to the lower realms of cyclic existence, those misdeeds can be purified. So we can apply such practices as the 4 opponent powers, and these will allow us to purify these negative activities we engage in.
Nasul Tane, Latam Military, Judote, Moguju, Chutin Town, and never touches some with the Shadanjia. What to look detained to go somewhere?
Then the Tamayanja Surana and the Gewachu, Suchim Agnature.
Jet was jet to go there. Chungo the Tomo larger about Tango, but Chungo the Tomo larger about Tomo. Chungo larger about the Kashukure, that didn't do long. Had a Malji long. What loud the shows and Magiju to the Marva?
Jantro, okay.
John Magiju to
less so.
And the Katu Suba to Debal Shadansia or to Sundaka to let him, but
less so. So this next couple of stanzas we begin to get into the teachings, the pathways shared in common with beings of small capacity, and these are pathways which lead to the higher realms of cyclic existence, to the gods in the human realms. So it says, my body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. So here, if we were to say, posit the pathways shared in common with beings of small capacities, or the pathways for beings of small capacities that lead to the higher realms, we would say they are the practices of refuge, going for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, engaging in ethical behavior which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, and then if one engages in negativity, acknowledging that downfall and applying some sort of opponent, such as the 4 opponent powers. So these practices allow our pathways that lead to the higher realms of cyclic existence, and categorically fall under the pathways shared in common with beings of small capacity. So these two stanzas are referring to the small capacity teachings.
Shi Jesu and Joa Shama Mena and Chudruga Yomare, the Joa Shama Yuaris, Joa Shamatane, Denudanga Yuare, what the Diva Poya, Godway out to the Kichiburis, she is a lieutenant of Magins, Diva Sabaina T, Debuting Yazunta, doing Yungre, Goasabaina, Dawata, Hatami, Tezon Yungres, what to Susan Mokutan was on his Amarba.
So we find my body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first, lest to recall the death that will destroy me soon. So these points, right now, at this moment, we have this human basis that is more important than a wish-granting jewel. We have this human basis currently in our hands. But the problem is that this human basis is not stable. It will eventually lead us to our death. We will perish. So we need to think about this and always keep this within our mind, that this death will come and destroy us. So this here is talking about our death and impermanence. So we need to think about the fact that we're going to die. And then it says, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Here, this is speaking of if there's no future life, then it's not necessary to worry about practicing Dharma. But there is a future life. And when we look at the two places that we can be reborn in our future lives, we find that they are the lower realms of cyclic existence and the higher realms of cyclic existence. And it is the virtuous deeds that we engage in that lead to the higher realms of cyclic existence, and of the gods and humans, and the non-virtuous deeds that we engage in that lead to the lower realms of cyclic existence of the hell, hungry ghost, and animals. So we need to recognize this, that we do have a future life, and that here we see what these deeds will bring to me. So virtuous deeds bring happiness, non-virtuous deeds bring suffering. So therefore, we at this point wish to engage in virtuous deeds and then abandon non-virtuous deeds because we wish to achieve the results of virtue and abandon the results of non-virtue.
She just learned that Teki Drebutile, Dawatan, Hatami, Tezan Tungures. Dibasa Yoba Inati, Drebutil Dungetan, Nesundale Mures.
So our life, this bubbles in the sea froth of a wave, we see that these bubbles are mixing in the water and unstable and always disintegrating, as our life is. And then when we die, our virtuous deeds that we engage in will lead us to happiness, and our non-virtuous deeds will lead us to suffering. So we recognize that we're going to die because we're like that bubble in the sea froth of a wave. And then when we die, the only thing that will give rise to the next experiences are the deeds that we've engaged in. So therefore, we need to recognize this and engage in the deeds that bring the results that we wish for.
What the Shine Jiwashima Mason and Jiwashima Yoris, Jiwashima Mas Lava in and the Tungumudusala Nama Jusin Maris, Nematuna maybe Chaba Yomaris, which Shima to Yoris, Drohan Nuba the Shad and Saban Drohanaris, Pomba Niba to you, Pomba Saban Doris, what they young Pomba Niba you Saban with the collagen to the waters, Marva.
So we say that there is a future life. And it's not sufficient to say, oh, just because we haven't seen this future life doesn't exist. So this doesn't pervade that. Just because we haven't seen something does not mean it's necessarily not there. So this isn't a good enough reason. So we need to recognize that there is a future life and gain this knowledge, and then look at it like moving out of an old hotel and then moving into a new hotel. So this set of aggregates that we have, we discard, and then we take on a new set of aggregates. So this process of getting rid of aggregates and taking on new aggregates and getting rid of aggregates is what is cyclic existence. This is the cycle of existence. This taking on aggregates and discarding aggregates, taking on aggregates and discarding aggregates.
What the canal in the season on the tongue of Larita in the Marva, the Gaza, Jibuchung to Moon Light Chung Sambajan was somebody Chivite, Telaludusa, Sambajan wanted and Jitin Shama to Jibata, Jitin Shama Temba, watch Jitin Shama thought they were John to the lady, John to Ta, and Conchu Sumar, Lama, Nasubabajina, Lama, just Hajil, Chula, Canilla, just and Elisha, I take it with the Damaset mother with the John to the Gate of Race. Johnson Ray Gune, and then Magajubungo Tutin the Kantu to Sumatuna, Debal Shatan Shebaina, and then Debatana Res. What the shade Marba?
So help me find your knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. So when we look at this in the context of the root Lamrim, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, we find that the categories under training the mind in the stages of the path shared in common with beings of small capacity are as follows. We first find there are three major headings. The actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, then the measure of the attitude of a person of small capacity, and then dispelling misconceptions related to a person of small capacity. Under this first category, the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, we find two categories: developing the state of mind that strives diligently for the happiness of future lives, and then the next category is relying on a means or a method for achieving happiness in one's next life. So we find these two categories. So under the second category, relying on a means for achieving happiness in one's next life, there are two major headings: refuge and then karma and its results. So the refuge is very important, as is karma and its results, when we relate it to this section of teaching shared in pathways shared in common with beings of small capacity. And when we speak of refuge, in Tibetan we say Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. In English we say I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So Rinpoche was just saying these are what refuge is referring to. We go for refuge, and then we look at karma and its results, and we then wish to engage in the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities. So by going for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and engaging in the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, and then if we engage in negativity, acknowledge that downfall, we are able to be reborn in the higher realms of cyclic existence, and these are the pathways shared in common with beings of small capacity.
Tele Taji Zo is Tebajibala Sung, Lendi Shesamba, the Sheda Samba, San and Judusha to Sumarva. Shesamba de la Nele Longitu, Nembatan, Led and Rebutaba Nimarva. Led and Rebutaba Tela Sunji, Nabi Lendetan, Kabi Lende, Ni Lerigina Gente of Sunji, Tanangasu, Nabi Lende, the Kabi Lende Catulate.
Less so. So when we look at the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment in the Karma section, we find that the Karma section first has a it's called Developing Faith and Conviction in Karma and its Results, that is the root of all temporary happiness and certain goodness. So this category is broken down. This category has 3 points: reflecting on karma and its effects in general, reflecting on karma and its effects specifically, and then how to engage in virtue and abandon non-virtue once one has reflected on karma and its effects in general and specifically. So under this first category of reflecting on karma and its effects in general, we find that there are two major points. First, the principal teaching on the 10 paths of action. So this is the first point, and then the determination of our effects of our actions. So these are the first 2 points. And when we look at this first category, the the principal teaching of the 10 paths of action. This goes through the 10 paths of action. And then we find the determination of the effects of our actions. And under that category, we find that there are three major headings. Black actions and their effects, white actions and their effects, and then a presentation of other classifications of karma. So when we look at the root text, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, we see how it plugs into this outline. These are the things I've done, white or black. So these things are explained in the Great Treatise under these categories here.
Nabi lende tang kapi lende ni legdwa what the kana lende se otama kabu sna gawaje giin debo kabu giin debo la dewa da tenro hat me tenso gawa kabu gawa saba ina ti debo le dewa yungre hat me tenso tures ne dibat saba ina nabo diba saba ina dibi debo le dunga yungre ne
So this black actions, the white or black and what those deeds will bring to me. What this means here is that our white deeds, which are referring to virtuous actions, bring happiness. So by engaging in virtuous actions, we're able to achieve rebirth into the gods and the humans realm. Black deeds, which are referring to non-virtuous actions or misdeeds, give rise to suffering, give rise to lower realms of rebirth. So this is what is meant in this section. What those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow.
What the marvelous? What the Kabila did the Nabil de Nije, that Kabasana Goacho. Nabasana Diva Mogocho, the Marga, Luigi Lene, Luigi Suji, Majima Lampa, Lois of Tapatabasho Sunte, Luigi Diva Sun, not going to do Tama, Chisungachi Gigi, Ijikun Nasan, Lotaje, the Jutele, Diva Mogocho, Nabile, what the Imbareta, the Jubon Chuti Jutele, Kabilende, what is the lady Barta?
So when we're speaking of non-virtuous actions, we're referring to, in this case, the 10 non-virtues. When we're speaking of virtuous actions, we're speaking of ethics that abandons any among those 10 non-virtues. So when we speak of the 10 non-virtues, there are the 3 non-virtues of the body: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. The 4 non-virtues of the speech: lying, divisive speech, harsh words, and gossip. And then 3 non-virtues of the mind: covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong view. So engaging in any among these would be considered non-virtue. Abandoning any among these is considered the ethics, which abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities.
당고 등아서 배지시에 사러 왔다. 다 지양 잡아도 말배. 지양 잡아. 디바 먹어 주들라. 디바 쳐 주요하래. 이한가 주요하래. 디바 총어 주요하래서. 지양 잡아 말배. 그와 주들야. 네, 그와 전부 주요하래. 네, 그와 주중 주용 그래서. 뭐 지양 잡아도 말배. 지양 잡아 어디 다른 가서 어떻게 되시나?
So under the category of black actions and their effects, we find the points of the actual paths of black actions, distinctions of weight, and an exposition of effects. So we've gone over the actual paths of black actions. So we're going to go over now the category of distinctions of weight. So here this is referring to the all non-virtuous activities and virtuous activities have great levels of occurrence and smaller levels of occurrence, or degrees, great degrees and small degrees. So what this section will show us is that each when we engage in deeds, these deeds have a weight to them. Some are weightier than others. Some are smaller weight than others. So this is the point of this section. So we're going to go over this tonight a little. Is anyone anyone who's going to look at the text, it's on 227 in the English.
다 지역의 처벌 때문에 어때 아주 나리 치면 때문에 보이는데 도와 이 자당 뒤지 골마도 동자들에 지역 때문에 니레스 레라 주의자다 샬라 도된지레지 고든 때문에 사진이 도와 네 레라 주의자들라 나도 나갈리서 어떤 말이야 레라 주의자와서 거주 최종다 디바주 최종들 어디 말이야 디바주 쳐와 주다 총아주 진조 어떤 자리서 말이야 디바마 거들라 친디 종송 요하르스 쳐와 주 진조 네 총아주 용어 말이야 쳐와 주부송송 되게 저번이와를 제거래 니 안에 주부되게 예달 제대로 총을 주부되게 돈을 찍어서 아주 시대도 원대 개고도다 내가 천리 종소 주부되게 니와를 제거래 니가 예달 총을 돈을 찍어서 해야 되고 내가 도 막에나 내도 무도다
So here we'll be able to ascertain now where we find the points made of how these degrees of actions produce results. So when we look at this category, distinctions of weight, we find there are two categories: the weights of the 10 paths of non-virtuous actions, and then the criteria for powerful actions. So the first category, the weights of the 10 paths of non-virtuous actions, it says that there are 5 causes that make an action heavy or a great degree. So when we relate it to virtue and non-virtue, so we look at the 10 non-virtues and then the ethics which abandons the 10 non-virtues, any among those have great, medium, and small degrees, or weights, if you will, or weight. So the weightiest among the non-virtuous activities, any among the 10 non-virtuous activities that are carried out in the weightiest fashion, give rise to rebirth in the hell realms. Those that are carried out in like a medium degree of weight or medium weight give rise to a hungry ghost rebirth, and those that of a small weight give rise to an animal rebirth. So we find that we've gone over those points before, and now we find the source material for it.
What the Tamal what you are that Deva Magawa Judele Chenrezig Yoaris Chawat Nyawal Jigandi Eda Jigre Chongo Turjig Pishaka Mamulu Yoda. What the Kandas Chenrezig Kandarizna, the Katu de Magana, what the Jatum.
So we find these points that are made about how the great degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hell realm rebirth, a medium degree of non-virtue gives rise to a hungry ghost realm rebirth, and a small degree of non-virtue gives rise to an animal rebirth. So we find this in many different texts, but without finding it here and knowing the reasons for it, we really don't know it well. So this is why it's important for us to look at this, and then we can find the source for the information that we know.
What the Jian de la Dene Nadu na and Sambi Jian, Sambi Jawa, and the Ju Jawa, Nebu Mebi Jawa, Lobongoba Shebi Jawa, Ji Jawas, what the Ji to the Santaba, they have a Sambi Jawas that day, Sambi Jawas there, and Dosha Shichibu Gune, Sujibalas, Deba Mago Jude, Chures. And Contra Shichibugne, Sujabalas, Deba Mago Jude, Deba Mago Chimberes. Tamu Shichibugune, Sujabalas, Deba Mago Jude, Chimberes. That to soon Jingune, Deba Mago Jude and Jingirua, Yedak Jude, Chunga, and Deba Mago Jusabatele, don't do you think some of what they have an end and they have an end. So,
when we look at this category of the distinction in terms of weight, we find that there are these 5 causes that make an action weighty. First, something, page 227 again. So things that make it weighty. So weighty because of the attitude, weighty because of the basis, weighty because of the performance itself, weighty because of not applying an antidote or the absence of an antidote, and then weighty due to clinging to the perverse or to clinging to wrong views. So when we go to the first category, weighty because of attitude, this attitude that's being spoken of is the negative attitude of the 3 poisons. So whenever we engage in an activity, so first, for instance, if we engage in killing, if we engage in killing with the greatest degree of intensity of attachment, then this is a great, a weightiest killing, and then this would give rise to rebirth as, I'll do it the other way. So this, so what this is talking about is doing things with intense forms of the 3 poisons of attachment, hatred, and delusion. So the example of killing is used. So if one engages in killing with the most intense amount of attachment, or the greatest degree of attachment, then this gives rise to rebirth into the hell realm. A medium degree of attachment into the hungry ghost realm, and a small degree into the animal realm. So the same applies to the other 2 poisons. I'll do it like this. The same applies to the other 2 poisons. So if there's an intense form of hatred involved, the greatest degree gives rise to hell, medium degree, hungry ghost, small degree, animal. And then if it's mixed with an intense form of delusion, the same is true. A great degree of delusion gives rise, and one kills with a great degree of delusion, then this gives rise to hell realm rebirth, a medium degree hungry ghost, and a small degree animal. So what this is speaking of, weighty because of attitude, it's speaking of the attitude of the 3 poisons being mixed in and motivating these non-virtues. Dixon.
What katu the sambe jewane sa lani jebote peitul de dote inche ku lawu do sambe jewane to son tabe sheba wosa sambe jewane to son sna de cha kondro de mo son de marbe to son shu tabe ne sabe diba mo go ju de wote diba mo go chi ju de res dan din dan chong wo to ka jiba yiro da to son tabe sheba wos to son usons gazasons. Ta gazason temarvan desha maybe gaza, shedan maybe gaza, tumu maybe gazason, shutabi gune, gawaju sabade, gawachiwa dres. Dinjena gawan dinje. Then chungo what the dabi samar. Usons
Less so. So now we'll read the English. There are 5 causes that make an action weighty. And exemplified by killing, they are as follows. As exemplified by killing, they are as follows. Actions of killing that are weighty due to attitude are those done with intense forms of the 3 mental poisons. So here, the 3 mental poisons are referring to attachment, hatred, and delusion. So the greatest intensity of any among those 3 gives rise to hell. A medium degree of intensity on any among those 3 gives rise to a hungry ghost. A small degree of intensity, any among those 3, gives rise to an animal realm. So if one engages in, and here we're using the example of killing, and same would apply to the other non-virtues, engages in killing, then the degree of it relates to the intensity of the 3 poisons. So this is this first category. So when we look at the 7-point thought transformation by Geshe Chikawa, we find that it says there the 3 objects the 3 poisons, and the 3 root virtues. So the 3 poisons are referring to the poisons of attachment, hatred, and delusion. And the root virtues are those virtues which are free from any among the 3 poisons. So an action which is free from attachment, an action which is free from aversion, an action which is free from delusion. So this is what is referred to as a root virtue. It's an action that's free from those. So if one engages in any among those root virtues with the greatest degree of intensity, this gives rise to the God's realm rebirth, a medium degree to the demigod, and a small degree to the human realm. So we find that also the degrees relate to virtue as well as non-virtue.
다 가와주 첨부도 간대자 오르서나 네 대사 매비 그자 시당 매비 그자 드무메 그자 슈타비 사샤비 가와주데 가와 첨부리스 디인데부터 할진도 오르서 아마르베
So
디인데게 네 하마일진도 총을 멀진도 오르서 마르베
So when we look at the how something becomes a greatest degree of virtue, it's when there is an action which is free from the free from the mental poisons, and is an intense form of that. So an action which has an intense freedom from any among the 3 poisons. So an action which doesn't have an intense form of attachment or etc. So the action with the greatest intensity of freedom of root virtue gives rise to the God, medium degree, demigod, small degree, animal. I mean human realm. Sorry.
다 네바 유죠 말바 유. 다 디바 먹어 사비체 안 수주비체 안 수주비 레가지고로 레가죠 레가 사 수주야 산다 안 수주야 그 트단 천차라 수비 안 세그로 다 유죠 어디 세다 데즈마나 세베 이나 어디 디바 쳐인서 말바 유죠 내사 수주버 세상 셰바를 좋아서 안에 담부 비보 네오 레다 송드레무데 뒤송 담부 수제바 다다 수제바 쇼고 수제바 좋아 송드레무데 어떻게 가버제네 안에 수제버 셰바를 좋아 뒤송지 데바 비보 네오 레다레바 어떻게 수제바 수술 가버제 거스 셰바 좋아라 가신사 어떻게 가버제네 담부 수제야 다다 수제야 주고 수제야 가버제 가신 rambi sentan tempa jisuiran sujebaldan jisuiran jine jisuiran tempa dans yaya shebala ane tempa dan raya shela yen ane zindu joji ti hamba joba dans ti hamba joba susu suje jenda la suje jo suje ne abushidar das wadin hamba jode what the things are joa tendra tonga na su jegen to tonga na tendra tonga na yi gawa da sel gabu je yere mo ne gabu je ko dibare de dibal gawa de dibaro gawal gawa de gaware de ro marbe tendra tonga su jegen tonga na yi gawa da sa yöre ne sanshis ta sujuya den hama sögwa san yöre mu san dane sanshin sabi senji sheba das yöre mu san ne seba ina sabi le sed mer sa shela saba sala majiba odmo das saba sed salu yöre mu tan seja badale sabi le sajibu sabi sujubile ane majiba le bot kanga ya jiroda sanshin sabi senji sheba dansa ta tato gobashi jin sujuya gabuji ne 다도 그바 시진 레르라야 모두 서바다스 수주할 가보지 그바진 다 맞춰지 되는 도술 그바는 시대 말베다 그바 시진 레르야 안 세진도 수차 먹으세네 모두 서바다 동네 잡지베 서바다스 안 고수들 그 동네 몸 잡지는 세바 내가 몸부터 갈래 단 세바도 소임바다 대디바치 버려서다 지바지네 안 콜시나나네 안 디 내가 두자 몸을 제주네 안 세바 와도 디바치 주임바다 지네 샤와 메바셰도 주도 서바다 디바치 버려서다 셴바다 동해와다 제바다 냐다바 마와다 히히제와 평안 되지도 세바스 다 냐중던데 당가 마세로 주소 무네 워든데 라우딩도 수수바도 데바치바 이사마라 워트바도 주주와드레무데
Less so the next is weighty due to performance. So performance is the actual killing, the activity or the action of killing, such as using the gun or using the knife. So this is what the performance is referring to. So there are 7 points that are made. So we'll read them. Killing with a mind delighting in and being glad about having taking a life, or taken life in the future. So this is referring to a mind that delights in and is happy about killing that one has done in the past, killing that one is currently doing, and the killing that one will do in the future. And then it says engaging in action yourself, causing others to take it up and praising it. That word rejoicing in it is maybe more but anyway, praising it, rejoicing in it. So rejoicing in killing that's been done in the past, present, or future by oneself or by others. So this is the next category. Third is doing it with a mind that is pleased when such a thing is done, and doing it after prolonged premeditation and preparation. So premeditated action is an action that one thinks about for a long time, thinks about it and then plans it or thinks about it and then engages in it. So this is what a premeditated action is. So for instance, the killing or stealing, thinking of killing, thinking about stealing for a long time and planning it and so forth. This is what a premeditated action is referring to. Then it says doing it constantly and diligently. Again, we could put joyfully there, constantly and joyfully, and each time killing a great deal. So killing a large amount of sentient beings at once when one is doing this constantly killing. So it's always going on and it's enjoyed. So this is what the fourth point is. The fifth point, killing your victim by torture. So this is causing a being a great deal of suffering before you end his or her life. So that's what this means, torturing them in some way. 6 is killing after frightening your victim into performing inappropriate actions. So scaring the person you're going to kill into doing a bunch of bad things, and then after you scare them into doing these bad things, you kill them. So this is number 6. And then number 7, killing while your victim is weak, suffering, or impoverished, or while the victim is moaning or piteously reciting laments. So that's referring to if the victim is crying out for help, saying, please don't kill me, and then you go ahead and kill. This falls under that 7th category. Okay. So maybe we'll get a bag, Rinpoche said, that we can put some of the cookies and hand out to folks. And we're taking a short break. And we'll have some...
Yeah, 다 소주 보면 주진 송발라 대단다 슐루 대포줄로 잡아이나 주진 집이 와 소주 보면 주진 안에 조와 주조와네사 다 거를 잡아이나 소주 보면 주진 주조와네 수제바 봉바 비보 네오 later Sujuba Pomba Sumbutele, Gawaji, Jesu Irajina, Gawa Yabarin Gojro,
Lesso.
Jesu Iran Dambatan,
Lesso.
and Raya, Sujubum Sujin Sun, Jelia, Sujubum Sujin Sun Jubaina, and Teshadaya was Haba Jubaina, Gawai Chibinjero. Tendra Tua in Sujubum Sujin Sun Tuana, Igawadan, Remune Sanshins, Tasujubum, Sujubum Sujin de, and the song going up with San Lujuan Butana, and the Sujubum Sutina, and the Sabiles, I think, but Sanji Sheba dance, and Tatu Sujubum Sujin Kubasheba, Kubashi, Larian, and Sujubum Sujin Motusuma. Motusuma, Dunga Tabuchi, Subadan, Jibajin, Shawa, maybe she to choose the Suba to Supoya in Jervada. Shambatan, Dunga, Tibetan, Nyataba Mawatan, Hijawa, Pengan Dunjin to Sumasuba, Sujabumba to the Sujin Chiva in Samarbe. Je Sujabum Sujin Chiva, Tipaju, Kasuba Lujana.
Chu, the Ninji Dan Shambalasa, the Tamagaric, the
Tasu Jibi, Jiwa, the Sujilana, Shezwa, Sujabum Sutil, Drabajin Bajaja.
Okay.
So, Bibu Sujaba, Neo Sujabomba, later Sujabomba, God Jesuera, then Davanda Vajila.
So then, when we look at the non-virtuous activities, unvirtuous activities can become weighty due to performance if they include these points. So the same is true for virtuous activities. Virtuous activities become weighty in the following way. So when we look at, we're going to just use the topic, the ethics which abandons killing, as our example of the non-virtue, of the virtuous deed. So here, if we abandon killing with the mind and delighting in and being glad about abandoning killing in the past, present, and future, then this is weighty due to performance. So this is an ethics which is a great weight. If we engage in the ethics which abandons killing ourselves, we abandon causing others to do it, and we abandon rejoicing in it, then this becomes a great weighty virtue. Then if we abandon killing with a mind that is pleased with abandoning it and thinks about abandoning it for a prolonged period of time, then this becomes weighty due to performance. If we engage in ethics which abandons killing constantly and do it with joy and do it a great amount each time, then this makes it weighty. If we do it with the absence of torture, so if we engage in the ethics which abandons killing and there's no torture, then abandons torturing, then this is a great virtue. If we engage in the ethics which abandons killing and abandons frightening victim in performing inappropriate actions, then this is a weighty virtue. And then if we engage in the ethics which abandons killing a victim that is weak, suffering, or impoverished, or while the victim is moaning or piteously reciting laments. So if we engage in the opposites, so if we abandon these killings with these opposite intentions, then these become the ethical weighty ethical behaviors. I think it's clear. Dixon.
So when we
look at the virtuous deeds in this weighty due to performance, we have the weights which are small, medium, and great as well. So when we look at the weights of our virtuous activities, we can say that we have these same ideas in place of weight, of degrees, small, medium, and great.
That's so. Ta nyebu de meba ina diba karzana diba jibu sabachano go shiro ta nyebu mebe chewa sa nyebu mebe chewa ne Nyeji Jindu, Habangaya, Maleba, Malay Laza, Nema Jindu, Sudak Shansang Dumba, Hak Dumba Kaya Maleba J. Lena Gorin Grua, Malena, Nepo Mebarin Guzirua, Malay Laza. Dashi Dan, and Dashi Dan, Seba Jidan, Seba Jujidan, Jungala, Yene La, never Tataring also, and Nishunga Lengazo, what the Tejas to one level, or Tendravo, Dawashakal Nea, Yene, Seba Jil Nea, Jujil Nea, Junga, what the level in a Goizero, Malena, and what the Nepo Mebarin Gomere. Niene la neba tang, tu jimba tang sa, tu ni jimba tang ya, su na tang, ngo tu mhawa tang, sha tsewa tang, dangwa tang, tamu jawa tang, du bi sen la suba ma jeba tang sa, an tu ta tu ni jimba ma tang wa tan jeba ina, an ku, Nepo Mebarin the Guzero, and Diva Sabate, Diva Chibachani Bare, Tuso, Mosa Shibatan, Tuso Mosa Shibatan, Teo Batan, Joba She Chewa, Matuba Dansa, Mosa Yoba the Teo in a Goarwata, Mosa Mebatan, Te Mebajena, and Diva in the Guzero, and then Joba She Mutuba, and the Diva and Joba She Mebaje. Dibal Juba Shibu in a Gawarwa. Jitembi Chadele Chungobertuba Maribos, Jitembi Chadele Chungobertuba, Jitembi Langua Tanungro, the waters to Meba in the Nebu Mebaris, to Yuna, Nebu Yuare, Dibal Nene, Dibaku Chuchon Zero, Nebu to Meba Inza, Nebu Mebigune, Sujubalasu, Dibachimachow in Marita. Never do you ever go there? So they were good God, Chimichu, some other.
Less so.
What the color of the
So, the tearing Nishu Sangha? Tearing? Nishunga. Okay.
But that should be 25. 10 month, 25.
25th, okay. So, weighty to due, so the next, we've gone over weighty due to attitude, we've gone over weighty due to performance, so now we're going over weighty due to the absence of an antidote. So here this means that we haven't applied any kind of opponent to the negativity we've engaged in, so we haven't applied an antidote. So it begins with weighty due to the absence of an antidote is one that is done, one, while not taking any precepts on a daily basis. So this is referring to the precepts that one adheres to daily, such as the individual liberation vows, or the bodhisattva vows, or the tantric vows, so not taking these daily, not adhering to these daily. Next, while not doing such things as observing one-day vows on the new moon or the 8th, 14th, 15th days of the month, while not occasionally being generous, collecting merit, speaking about the teaching, making obeisance, rising when a respected person enters your presence, pressing your palms together in respect, or having an attitude of veneration. So here, for instance, today we're having this teaching. It's Tsong-kha-pa Day. It's the 25th of the month. It's a special day. So this is serving as an antidote to our negativities because of the power of the day. So we find these specific days that are pointed out. So today we took it says observing one-day vows. So today we took the Mahayana one-day vow. So this is an antidote in this case. And then these other things, being generous, collecting merit, these are all talking about virtuous things, which are serves as opponent to non-virtue, or antidotes to non-virtue. Number 3, while not from time to time becoming ashamed, embarrassed, or having preponderance of contrition. So here, this word ashamed, having shame or embarrassment is considered a virtue. These words don't really have, just as a translator's note, there isn't a sense of guilt within them. There's a sense of recognition of done something wrong. So when we look at these words, ashamed and embarrassed, that word guilt isn't loaded into them. It's more of a regret but a little bit stronger, and being embarrassed by what one has done. But it's not a clinging type. So just as a note, so when I'm saying what is shame and embarrassment is virtuous, not being having shame and not having embarrassment is non-virtue. And this is talking about when one is committed wrong, not having shame, not being embarrassed. Yeah. While not having reached either a state of freedom from worldly attachment or the clear knowledge of the teaching. So one hasn't applied the antidote, which is the pathway, which frees one from worldly attachment and allows one to know clearly what the Dharma is. So when we look at these negativities, the opposites of these negativities become the virtues that are weighty. That's how we look at this. If we have no absence of antidote, if we have the presence of antidote, then this is how we turn it and understand it in terms of virtue versus the terms of non-virtue that it's being presented in. So it's important for us to look at this. We have the distinctions of weight. Weighty based on attitude, weighty based on performance, weighty based on not applying an antidote. So this is the real meditation. This is the most helpful thing that we can do. We read this in the book, then we think about it, and then we have this root that begins to grow and we begin to understand more. So this is what the real meditation we should be doing is this contemplation of things like this.
So you
read it, you understand it a little bit, you come to an understanding, and then you look at it again, and then you understand a little bit more, and come to an understanding, and this is the process of knowledge and familiarization. So where we are, we'd first have the class, the explanation of the text, and then we would engage in a large amount of debate about the text. And then we would understand its actual meaning, understand its meaning well. So if you think about this a lot, then you'll ascertain the meaning.
Ta sambi jiwa, tangba ji, yu jiwa, nyeba ji, nyeba mebe jiwa, songba ji, ta jiba de loba ngoba shenbi jiwa de marwa. Jiba loba ngoba shenbi jiwa ne, chujin sheba taki, tawa la tenbe, chudu ne, suba tang, shuna ne, jigu dabu, yuji ji jur, trube na, sejang, nyeba me to nyaba su lota kanron la tende sobos wotere no tanga su te macho je de ngamude nebale ngara je da shadi tu kuban mai da tu se de mar wote macho je adere do de macho je de ade sejin de su shardan chag choba bin de bo yo mares ne sejin tu ka chigu da me Nesaato jutu javres sin diba yomares ode sin diba yomares na lotare
lesson
lobango ba shebichwas ode jene diba sabaina diba chejures lotat bombu gone ane sudin sombaina sudin cheju jerwa.
So this next killing, weighty due to clinging to the perverse or clinging to wrong view. Killing that is weighty due to the clinging to the perverse is that done in reliance on any sort of wrong view. For example, there are those who kill out of a desire to be religious, relying on the views of those who make animal sacrifices. They think that there is no fault in slaughtering livestock because the Lord of all beings created them to be used. So here, we find these practices in Nepal and other places where they actually make offerings of blood, make offerings of the animal. They make a sacrifice of the animal. And they feel there's nothing wrong with killing these birds or and so forth as an offering. because they look at it as a religious activity, and they think that because the Lord of all beings gave them to us, that slaughtering these things is not non-virtuous. So this is the wrong view. That is what this perverse is, just a translation of wrong view. So this is the wrong view that causes that killing to become weighty because of believing that it's virtuous to engage in these negativities, not thinking there's anything wrong with it. When we look at the opposite, the abandonment of the perverse, then this becomes the virtuous activity. So if there's an abandonment of the wrong view, abandonment of perverse, then this is its opposite, which is virtue. This is the non-virtue. So when we look at the abandonment of the perverse, ethics, which is the abandonment of clinging to the perverse, a great level gives rise to a God's realm rebirth, a medium level gives rise to a demigod realm rebirth, and a small level gives rise to a human rebirth.
Sambi Jiwa, Nyambo Mabi Jiwa, Lubongo Jiwa, Jili Jiwa Jindua, that Jiba Jili Jiwa Derendua, Jili Jiwa ne, Tunro, Pon Chimbutan, Mo Machaba Dan, Pama Dan, Ponutan, Lama Tabutan, Yijuba Dan, Luba Dan, Shansen Dan, Dajumba Dan, Ransanji Seba Dan, Tijinsheba, Jumaniba, Shejindu, Nansenji, Chanjiba, Wote, Chanjiba de Wote, Jilejiwa de Resman, Tunduta, Lanchin Ramadan, Paju Ramada, Chibutu Sena, Diba Chibures, Tunduchuma Sena, Diba Chunchun Res, and Water. Tundu Ponchi was in Zugu Chibutu Marbe, Tundu Ponchi was in Diba Chibures, that man Machabas. Mercy is not Mercy at the Rota. Machabasana, Amituna, Buchasaro, Chasa, the Wote, Mabazuna, Mercy was less so. No, Machabas Wote, less so. Glumpai Sudan, Sotagundu, Glumpai, Polo de Mother,
Madampa,
Mada, Mana Sutra, Pada, Mana Sutra, Nijanolo Theatre, Suji Pombakatu Theatre. Suji Pomba Gare Yungurasana, Mo Machabate, says Mona, Suji Pomba Yunguris, Glumata.
So, killing that is weighty due to its basis. So we've gone over killing that's weighty due to its attitude, weighty due to its performance, weighty due to the absence of an antidote, and weighty due to clinging to the perverse or to wrong view. And now we're at the section on weighty due to the basis. So it's taking the life of a large animal, a human, a fetus, your parents, your aunt or uncle, someone such as a guru, a close friend, a learner, a bodhisattva, an arhat, a prachika Buddha. Also it is killing which is weighty due to its basis when you know that a tathagata cannot be killed and you bring forth blood from a Buddha with an intention to harm. So here we'll go through the basis. So a large animal, so killing an elephant, for instance, is a greater karma. So the larger the animal, the weightier it is as a basis. So it says human and fetus. So here, a human being is a normal human being. Fetus is the, Rinpoche is just explaining, the baby which is in the womb. And where do we find this reference for that killing a fetus is of great weight? We find it in the Vinaya, in the fully ordained monk and nuns, in the fully ordained monk and nun section, and in the nun specifically section, where we find that this killing the baby in a womb to be of great, killing, that it is killing if there is a baby in a womb, which is a fetus, and it is of great weight. And then it says your parents, your aunt, your uncle, etc. But we find this source where it's for the fetus point in the Vinaya in the fully ordained section. So if we look at the ethics which abandons this basis, then a medium, great degree gives rise to God's medium degree, demigod, and small degree to the human realm.
다 대바 먹어 주 너네 수저 사러 수저바 쳐보 나시 송나 어디 나를 지래 지마르 지래 어디 시차네다 함을 줄 하도록 주 하마 골하도록
Lesso.
구이 제어도 어디 해야다
Lesso.
고기 지 저한테 주갈시 안에 하마 다 하마 제 손을 말해 어디 수저바 다버스 무슨 마송 바시 수저 다버스 주지와 다 마지발렘바 지지와 안에 주지와 상비지와 마지발렘바 상비지와데 안에 도송수 잡고네 안에 마지발렘바이나 안에 디바체주이지와
Lesso.
딩게 마지발렘바이나 딩 총도스렘바이나 총원이지 말বে 대부분 주제송데 유송 도송 그자송 잡는다.
So when we looked at killing as an example and applied all of these various points to it, about the 5 points and so forth. So what then do we know about the other 9 non-virtuous activities? So in the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, it says that the weight of the remaining 9 non-virtuous action is similar to killing, except for the basises. So then the basises make them weightier in the cases of the other 9 non-virtues. So we find that there are great medium and small degrees of weight relate to all of these, and then the abandonment of them do as well, have degrees.
So if
you think about this slowly, then in the future you will become a scholar. You understand? So if you understand the Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment, if you ascertain the meaning of that, then you ascertain the meaning of the Kangjur, the pronouncements of Lord Buddha, and the Tenjur, the authentic Indian commentaries. So when we look at the the Kangjur and the Tenjur, we would say that the Atisha's lamp for the path to an enlightenment is like an ocean, and the Kangjur and Tenjurs are like rivers that flow into this ocean. So it's called an illustrious ocean of instruction, because these rivers of the Kangjur and Tenjur flow into Atisha's lamp for the path to enlightenment.
So if you
we have only the Kangjur and Tenjur in Tibetan, and whether we can read them or not is uncertain, but we have in English now the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. So this is very good that we have this text. So you have the English Lam Rim, or Stages of the Path, right in your own hands. It's very good.
Ji Jiwate Google Shigis Jimatubi Lama Suja Dabures, Suja Dabu Santasha Jigres.
So here what this is going to say is that the weight of the other 9 non-virtues is very similar to killing. The only differences that we're going to deal with are the difference in basis.
Lama Gui Jimatuba Sujiba Tar Sheba Jian Sheba Shalaza Tasujiba Majiba Leba, Ta Majiba Leba Jilichewa the Canderisana Suju Jilichewa or Tamal Chinsarota Majiba Leba Jilichewa de Mombutan Zambutang, Yitambala Koshin, Chubatang, Mebatang, Trebatang, Radushungatang, Chundabala Chubatang, Kondu, Kondu Nisarbe, Kondu Chubatang, Kondu Chubatang, Kondu Chuba Angel Karsando. Kondu Chuba dance.
Tambo the near the Lamrim Chemo Yomari Puik, the Detsilo.
Inche.
The Chala Yabo.
Ta Majibala Vajilla Joan the Mambo Dansero. Ta Koma Mambo Guba in the Dibachibares.
Lesser. Then
Jala Zachabuba in the Dibachibares, Zambo dance.
Zambo. Then
Yitambala questions. Yitambala question Chuba dansa. And Jalate and then Medele and then Kuguyobadan. Kurun Temajina de Kumagubaina, Debachibus on the Samarbe, Chuba dansa. That Mebadan, Mebadan, Mebas in the Jubutu Jala Kubadan, Jugudu and Jala to Kubaina, and Debachibus in the Tebadan. And the Rajons and Morgan Sumarbe, the Chala Truba in the division. Chudabala Truba dance, Chudaba Rajon Sumarbe, Namba
Yanlan Shaken.
Namba Chala Kubadan.
Then
Go to Chubas Karsado.
The Gomchembo Chala. Gomchembo Chala.
What is
Serdan?
What is it?
Dorje Palmo.
Kondo Chuba dansa, Chuba dance. Chuba dan Tajumba. Chuba Sana Nitu Papa, Nitu Tolomba, Golomba, Raja Tolomba, Golomba, Shansen Tolomba, Golomba, Takante, Nitu Tolan, Julan Tolan, Golan. Gona Raja Solan Julan Tolan, Gona Jije, Shansen Solan Julan Tolan, Gona Jimarbe. What the Sukichala Truba, the Bachabres on the inside.
The Lopa, the Papa Ingu.
Lobas are not the
Papa Ingu.
Papa, you had a Papa Mayba.
Okay, two Chena. Okay. So stealing is weighty due to the basis of it involves taking a great deal, so taking a large amount of things, or taking good things, so things that are good, or stealing after deceiving those who trust you, so somebody has some trust in you and then you take from them. Stealing from the lowly, so those who are less fortunate, the impoverished, those who are poor, renunciates are those who are ordained, other Buddhist practitioners are practitioners who are on the path, so other people who are Buddhists, or involve stealing what is highly valued, so something that is worth a lot of money, something's valuable, or stealing the property of learners, arhats, prachika Buddha, the community, or stupas. So here learners can refer to any among those practitioners from the path of in the hearer's solitary realizer or bodhisattva vehicle. So those hearers, solitary realizers, or bodhisattvas on the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, and the path of meditation. So those four pathways are what we're referring to. Those four pathways are what those learners are on. So beings who are learners are beings who are on those four pathways.
O tusu kuba ina majiba jili chewa terendres roa. Ta majiba lembi tsuti o te pompi majiba lembi tsuti te jili chewa injire.
So if we look at the abandonment of stealing from such bases, then this makes it so that the abandonment, because the basis is what it is, the abandonment then becomes a great weight. So this becomes a great amount of virtue then as well. So when we look at its opposite. And if I didn't read the last four, arhats, prachika Buddhas, the community, or stupas, I just don't know if I read those four things, so I just wanted to, in case I didn't.
다 로인 젤레 제와서 로인 젤레 제와 말바 로인 젤레 제와네 조바샤 메바 다다 데바가 제바 이 주비 초마 글로마다 네 글로마다 그투마 녀버시바 그투마 녀버시바다 네 녀버시바다스 what 제용 왜라 메바 카르주바다 뒤메바 헤네라 네바 네 조마 다와 참와 네바당사 네메바 최대지 녀고다 근유지 근거라와 녀버시보스 다 로인젤에 저도자도마 로인로와
So now we're speaking of sexual misconduct.
로인젤에 저는 조바샤 메바 다 조자 메바서나 수수 제메이나 수수 주가이나 조자를 줘요 말와 수수 제메이나 수수 안에 누구 녀샤베 제메나 들이나 로인레가 말레스 조바샤 메바 마스 말 로인 제바이나 말 마상슈나 로인 찬고도 마 대단 대화 마단 대화 이렇게 네 베멘도 되는 인도 뜻을 마상슈바네 로인 찬고도 되는 제바를 마상슈바이나 로이레스 이 주비 조마 다 젠다기 조마 젠다기 제메 그런 가버지에서 제메도 술래 마상슈바이나 로이레는 저는 글로말라 마상슈나 로이레 그래서 네 글로말라 마상슈나 로이레 그추말라 녀베시나 로이레는 그래서 어떻게 다들 요라 메바트 말바 수수 제메 이나야 요라 메바 카르마 상슈바다 조바당사다 라도술마 상슈바이나 안 로이레는 그래서 요라 메바 카르조바당스 다마들 안에 카세마송 잘 카다 조바당사다 라도술 제바이나 수수 제메이나 로이레는 그래서 조바당 뒤메바 녜네라 네바스 안 제메 녜네라 네바드네이나 틀마자마쇼이나 안 로이레노 말에
Less out.
조만다와 청왕 조만 보고 차네 야지 보고 찍하라면 어때 들으리 마자마쇼나 비지 로이레노 말와 되네 제메 수수 제메이나 네바이나 마자마쇼나 로이사 말바 다네 메바 최대진요거다 하칸다 최대도 트리트발 마상바쇼바이나 로이레스 마르 근류지 군가라와 냐버시보스 워터바도 로이.
So sexual misconduct, we find that there are 4 categories that relate to basis. Basis of a person that is inappropriate to have intercourse with, parts that are inappropriate to have intercourse with, or parts of the body, times that are inappropriate to have intercourse, and then places that are inappropriate to have intercourse. So then these will all be covered in terms of what the weightiest among them are. So it says, sexual misconduct that is weighty due to its basis is sleeping with those whom you should not have intercourse with. So that's that first category, bases of beings you shouldn't have intercourse with. So it says your mother, those who are her relatives, the wives of men who are close friends. So you shouldn't have intercourse with your mother or any of her relatives or any of your good friends' wives. Really, here when we look at the appropriate basis, or the kind of the person, appropriate person, it means one's own wife or one's own husband, no one else's. That is how we determine this category. But then the next behaviors, it doesn't matter if the person is your wife or not, there's still sexual misconduct. Here, the wives of men who are close friends, nuns, probationary nuns, and female novices. So these are the 3 ordained vows of the female. In terms of an inappropriate body part, sexual misconduct that is weighty due to its basis is oral intercourse. So when we find the inappropriate body part section, we find that the mouth, the hand, the anus, all of these places are inappropriate body parts. Inappropriate in terms of time. It's intercourse when observing a one-day vow, so an individual liberation one vow, or a woman at the end of her term, so when the baby is very close to being born, or if the woman is ill. So if any of these circumstances are present, even if one is your own spouse, then it's not appropriate and it becomes sexual misconduct. In terms of an inappropriate place is intercourse in the vicinity of a stupa or within the compound of the sangha, the community.
So
then, when we look at the ethics which abandons these, then we have ethics related to the basis, or virtue related to the basis.
Junjili Jawanes, ne Jen Dejin, Loa, Debe, Demabo, Dumawatan, Pama ne, Sanji Patans, Zambutan Zawula Mawatan, Sujabasu, ne Son. Jeba Mawa, Ribe. Sujaba Su, and Sujaba Sun, Sujaba Majiba Leba, Loye Sunina, Sun Jeba Mawa was, Angel Catindo. What does it do?
Suchupa Dang. Majimpa Lamba, Don Louis. Let's see, this gives rise to one of them.
Sujuba Jelly Joannes, Jen Dijin, Loa de Bisa.
Natsu Zun, Ngay Zun, Dain Sunsan Suchupa, Gomagoa. The Jepo, Ngay Zun, the Jepo Gare, May Saison, Ngay Zungi Jepo. Ngay Zungi Jepo.
Ta Jun Jelly Joanne, Jen Dijin, Jen. Susu Mayim Jenda Hiro. Jenda Dejin Loa Dubis, Majenda, Loyagan Dubayune, Dune, and the Dun Mobushivatla, Shina, Jun Chimberes, Deva Chimberes, Zum Hoa Town, Paman Jun Shibaina, Jun Chimberes, Pamane, and Sanji Jibatson du, and Yetudan Rajetan, Theatan Gatanga, the Parasanga. Tsong-kha-pa, Tsong-kha-pa, Sanji Duzule, Jumhana, Junchibares, Pamane, Sanji Jipar, Junshigina, Junchimbare, Diva Chimbares, and Zambutan, Zawu, Tama Zambutan, and Susu Trouble Jazin Shebaina, Junchibares, Zambutan, Zawula, Pawa Jumawatan, Sujabasu. Sun Jeva Mawa, Su Jeva, Takatu Su Jeva Sun Kadu.
They Ngay Zun. They Ngay Zungi Jepo Gare, May Shison. Gomo May Chenda Gomo Goson. May Louis, the Louis John. Ngay Zungi Jepo, Dan Drabodu. Zun Jepo Dan Drabodu.
Danda Den Samdo. Gani ishir Jumhawane, Taji, Gani ishir Jumhawasa.
Again in Tamasheba.
Gani Angie was at Marba. Gani Angie with Tame.
Tame.
Gani ishir.
That's so.
Jumhawane, Taji Janana. Joa was it?
Show.
What is it?
Chen show.
What the is? What the
lying that is weighty due to its basis is through desiring to delude and deceive. So you wish to deceive someone Tell lies with many purposes or reasons. Telling lies to those who have helped you, from your parents through the Buddhas to good persons and to friends. Telling a lie that gives rise to one or more of the three weighty actions: killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Telling a lie in order to split apart the community is the weightiest among all of these. So we begin up here. Telling lies with many purposes, lies to those who have helped you, from parents through the Buddhas. Telling lies to one's parents is extremely negative, and through the Buddhas is referring to all those practitioners on the pathways up to Buddhahood. So those here are solitary realizers, bodhisattvas, who are on the path of accumulation, those beings who are on the path of preparation, those beings who are on the path of seeing, those beings that are on the path of meditation, and then it says up to Buddhas, those beings who have no more to learn. That's what it means there. To good persons, to friends, and telling a lie that gives rise to one or more of the three weighty actions. And then telling a lie in order to split the community apart is referring to the dividing the Sangha. It's one of the five irreversible actions, one of them among the five heinous crimes. So it's saying that this is the weightiest among all of them, because it falls under those of the five most heinous actions one can do, dividing the spiritual community.
That Tama Jilla Joan, doing Tamara. Tama Jilla Joan, you're Sheba Tansa. You're the Susuki, Shinenda, Trubatan Indo. Shebi trees at the Damudi, Mubuluduki, Jabba Jizombo. You're the Sheba Tan, Gi Shineta. You're the Sheba Tan, Trubut, and the Junshina. And Tama Jiba in the Tama Dibachibures, Gishinel Tama Jiba in the Dibachibures, Pamale Tama Jiba in the Dibachibures, Bon Gandun Jebanos, Bull Tama Jiba in Dibachibure, Gandu and Jiba in the Dibachibures, Le Jason.
The Yanjer Suchu Majibalemba.
Jibi Tama was what the Tamanda
Nama Chipa, the Jepo,
Waya,
Tamashe Jep, Ngate Sampa.
Yeah.
Divisive speech that is weighty due to its basis is speech that splits apart those who have been friends for a long time. So here, very similar when we look at Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, making those who are compatible incompatible. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about dividing friends. Some people who are compatible together, or harmonious is another way to describe it, and making them inharmonious, making them incompatible. So it says teachers, parents, and their children, or the community, and divisive speech that gives rise to weighty actions, the three physical actions. So here, this is the same as previously stated, that it's divisive speech that gives rise to killing, divisive speech that gives rise to stealing, divisive speech that gives rise to sexual misconduct. So it looks like we're out of time. So we will end the teaching there. And we'll do the concluding mandala offering and dedication prayers. And thank you everyone for coming and listening on this holy occasion. The merit that we create, one virtue today equals 100,000 because of the time of increase since it's Lama Tsong-kha-pa Day. So we've engaged in a large amount of virtue. So now we need to dedicate it. So concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land, surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso. May you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensa Wandok, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denolna.